Hello, everyone. This is your host, John Clarence Gomez, and welcome to the John Clarence Gomez Show. Today, I will do a deep dive of musical where we will explore about musicals, and the musical that we will talk today the the award-winning musical Jersey Boys. And my guest today is Bobby Pax, who is one of the person who originally play Frankie Valli from the Australian production of Jersey Boys. Hi, Bobby. Can you say hello to our listeners?
Hello, everyone, and hello to you, John. Great to
Yes,
chat to you, mate. I'm sorry, it's quite echoey where I am now in this pink room, but I'm sure you can hear me fine.
yes, I can hear you fine. Uh, 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 Here is about the musical Jersey Boys. Jersey Boys is a jukebox musical uh, that that based on the success and breakup of the 1960s rock and roll band called the Four Seasons. In the musical, one of the most famous song that they sing is "Biggest Don't Cry, Chevy," and "Can't Take My Eyes Off You." That's one of the song that is famous that you will hear from that musical, and it was created by based on the book of Marshall Bickman and Rick Ellis. Uh, when it start of the development, Bobby, in the early 2000s, the reason why Bob Gojo, one of the original Four Seasons member, created uh, uh, wants to make this kind of musical based on the success of his band, because it is based on the inspiration of the success of the musical Mamma Mia. Because Mamma Mia and Jesse Boys has similarity, but the only difference that I see in the Mamma Mia and Jesse Boys is based on the story. Because Mamma Mia, even though Mamma Mia is on based on the songs of ABBA, it never pictures about the story or the success of ABBA. It's only about a fictional story. But Jersey Boys is different from Mamma Mia when it comes to story, because Jersey Boys, it is not based on the musical from the songs of Four Seasons. It is based also from the story and success and part of the force and wake up of the Four Seasons. Uh, and let's talk about the production. Now, Jersey Boys was was premiered at the La Jolla Playhouse in California in in 2004, and the musical was opened on Broadway in 2005 at the August Wilson Theatre. And and in Australia, it was opened on in 2009, where one of my guests, Bobby, who was originally played as Frankie Valli, Stephen Mai as Bob Gojo. Stephen is one of my guests on my podcast. Last 2020, I interviewed him on the podcast. Scott Johnson as Tommy DeVito, and Gladstone Stop as Nick Massey. And on the UK, on the West End, it was also debuted at the Prince Edward Theatre in February 2008. Uh, 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 Bobby, what is your experience doing when auditioning for this musical?
The experience of auditioning was a very unique one in that I went in and auditioned, and it didn't go very well. My first audition was a disaster, and it was only because the people that were in the room I had auditioned for many times before, and so they were very kind and gracious, and they allowed me a second opportunity because they knew that I was just nervous or something. I had seen Jersey Boys on Broadway and loved it and thought it was a magnificent show, and so I was nervous to audition for it because I just loved it so much. And then after that, I was able to come back and relax a little bit more and actually deliver a bit more of myself and a bit more of who I am and what I'm able to actually do. And so over time, then there was a lot of auditions. Then over probably about a 6 or 7 month period, which then led me into my final audition, which was really big. There was a lot of people in the room. There was maybe 20 people in the behind the big table, and so when I finished my audition, the casting agent told me that I did a really good job, and actually at the time I had on my headshot, my actor's headshot that I had given to them, I had a beard, and I had dark hair then, but I had a beard, and they told me that they needed me to get a different headshot straight away because they wanted to show it to people overseas, and they didn't want me to have any beard at all. They wanted me to be like yourself, John, and in-
Uh, um, we will talk about the hypnosis of this musical. Let's go in the act one. In the act one, the start is in the opening scene. There is a French song called "C'est Sauvis La." Tommy introduced himself and explained that that song that that song is number one hit in France in 2000. It's an adaptation of their song December 1963, or What a Night, a song from his group that the Four Seasons originated. Also, after that, Tommy also tell about the story where he his band were begin in the on a street corner in Belleville, New Jersey, in the early 1950s. In the in when they are singing the song "Still Holds." Tommy is one of the member of the cover group, the Variety Trio, along with this Nick Vader, Nick DeVito, and his friend Nick Massey. In the song Earth Angel from the musical, the DeVito brothers was sent to Rahway prison for a robbery. Bobby, you are one of the part of the musical. Why the DeVito brothers was sent for the prison? Do you remember some story of it?
They were just caught up in quite a lot of petty theft. They were caught up in, nighttime robberies, house robberies, store robberies, that kind of thing. They were what's called from the wrong side of the tracks. And they spent a little time in and out of Galway prison. And is when you're in New Jersey, you're all and what they had a young lad called Frankie Valli. And so Frankie was their ticket out. They were able to create a band around him, and that was it that allowed them to get out of New Jersey.
There is also a scene in the Aqua in the scene there where they bring Frankie Castiluccio, who is the real name, who later become Frankie Valli. The reason why Frankie last name was changed to from Castiluccio to Valli, because it was based on the change to the more Italian Valli, and then Mary and Frankie was soon married, and a year then Frankie also falls prey to a fake murder scam, which Tommy defused by calling his boss mobster Gib DeCarlo, and Frankie is pressured into singing a song he had not done since age 15 called My Mother's Eyes. That the musical also bring the story about their story about the that they experience many hard kind of story before they become to success in the act one, and then a little, and then let's move to the next scene in the act one called Summer, because the first scene that are we talking in the opening is the act one scene in spring, and in the summer spring, one of my interested my favorite scene in the act one on the Aqua is when they introduced the angels in the song My Boyfriend's Back. In in Australia, who is the person, who are the actors who play as the angels? Because I saw your video on YouTube, uh, performing My Boyfriend's Back, and and there's the actress who are playing the angels there. Who are the name of the Australian actress who play as the angels in the Australian production?
Well, there was many girls that played it. There was a girl called Catherine Rodriguez. She played. She sang the song. And then we had Lisa Adam, who played Mary Delgado, and then we had Verity Hunt Ballard, who played Lorraine. And so those three ladies made up the Angels.
Oh. Um, Also in the Act One, also there is a scene that that Bob Bob Gojo takes Frankie into the Brill building and secure a session musician contract with Bob Crew. You know, Bob Crew is the one of the building producer and composer who work with Bob Gojo, and also he is an openly gay and having a fondness for astrology. Did Bob who helps the Four Seasons to get rise on the music industry, on that story?
Yeah, he's the reason why. He was the reason why they were sort of stuck. They weren't doing a ton of. They weren't. They were writing and they were doing shows and stuff, but nothing was really hitting. And they were working with Bob Crew in the Brill Building as session musicians, singing backup for a lot of different artists. And they kept bringing songs to Bob Crew in order for him to record them, and he kept sort of shuffling them off. And then finally, they said to him that, why won't you record us? And he said, because you haven't given me a hit. And so that is what. So they continued to write, and it was when they wrote the song Sherry, and they wrote Sherry and they punched it and they sung it over the phone to Bob Crew, and Bob Crew heard it and immediately knew that it was a hit, and they recorded it straight away, and then it was released out into the world.
Yeah, yeah. Also the band, also the Four Seasons, but also survives the British invasion. You know, the British invasion that I am saying, it is the popularity of British bands like the Beatles during that time, because in 1960s British were popular, and but the band survives it and Bob begins looking toward the future when Norm Waxman composed Tommy up in the after a concert to collect Tommy's unpaid debt of $150,000. So they have also a problem on that musical, on the story of the musical, where they have a debt of $150,000.
That's right. But it wasn't just the $150,000. It ended up being over a million, because Tommy DeVito had hidden a lot of debts that he hadn't paid.
And then we will go to the Act Two, because we need to make this fast. In the Act Two, Nick taking over as narrator, and he tell the story about some incidents about that Bob had overlooked, explaining that Bob never forgave Tommy after an unpaid bill and landed the quartet in jail after an Ohio appearance, Big Man Town, and Funky lost respect for Tommy, attempted to make a pass at Funky's new girlfriend Lorraine in revenge. Tommy escalated his gambling even further until Waxman called in the debt. Why that happened in the story, in the act?
That was a huge thing. That was kind of the breakup of the band. That Nick Massey didn't want to be part of the band anymore. Tommy was extradited out to Las Vegas, and Frankie took on the debt and then continued to tour and and make as much money as he could to pay off that debt as quickly as possible.
Uh, uh, and, and then we will go to the Act Two, Scene Two, which is winter, because the the first thing in the Act Two that we are talking is about the Scene One, the Paul. And in the Scene Two, the winter, Frankie takes over the narration. Let's hang on, admitting that he had tolerated Tommy's blessing out of loyalty, but that he was hurt and baffled by Nick's departure. Uh, so Nick was depart from the band, and then Frankie and Bob have replacement the band to keep the band a quartet. Fellow New Jersey native Charlie Calello and Joe Long, but Frankie balks when Bob wants to hire a replacement for himself. So when they so when their when their breakup happens from their band, they hire a replacement to to survive their band, right?
That's right. They have a few guys. Now they weren't necessarily featured in the show. They didn't have too much dialogue or anything like that. Their presence was just felt, but we didn't actually. It didn't. It introduced new characters by name, but we never got to know them. We was still focusing on the characters that we already knew by this point: Frankie and Bob and Lorraine, and Bob and Frankie trying to still get together more hits.
Also, there is also scene in the winter, in the Act Two winter scene, that uh, uh Francine wakes up with Frankie up, and in the song "Bye Bye Baby Goodbye," why Francine wake up with Frankie on the story?
Well, Francine is not Frankie. She didn't break up with him because that was his daughter. Francine is Frankie's daughter. But what she
Uh,
does
uh,
do, it was Lorraine. Lorraine breaks up with Frankie. He needs to say goodbye to her as well. At the same time, his daughter is having a lot of issues with drugs and alcohol, and she's distancing herself away from Frankie.
uh, so Lorraine wakes up with Frankie, and
That's
in the
right.
Bible.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
So
we
so
see Frankie is because all he's doing is working, and all he's doing is touring and trying to make money and get out of debt.
yeah,
He's losing all of his relationships. He's sacrificing all of his relationships in order to get out of that hole that was dug for him.
yeah. Sorry for my confusion.
That's
That's
okay.
the way not Francine. Also, one of the notable scene that I like on the winter scene in the acto is when they sing the "Can't Take My Eyes Off You," which is a hit. You know that song is very popular in all over the world. The
Oh
the song
yes.
"Can't Take My Eyes Off You." It was sung by many singers, and also uh, 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 one of the scene there that Francine suddenly dies from a drug overdose in the song "Fallen Angel." Why does happen on that scene?
Yeah, that's a very sad scene. Francine, uh, um, Frankie receives a phone call, and he thinks because he at this point he has his relationship has mended with Francine, and and every night they have the same every week they call each other at the same time and they catch up, and they're able to build up on their father daughter relationship, and then they what ends up happening is she's still using and slipping in and out of her addiction, and one night he gets a phone call where he would normally get the phone call from Francine. He gets the phone call from the hospital letting him know that she's actually passed away,
And
which is
let's
very sad.
yes, and
Now,
and
John,
then
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do need to run. I'm afraid.
yeah.
And you can continue to talk about the show. It's an amazing
Yeah.
one, and you're doing such a great job at it.
Okay. Also, here is the last thing that we will talk. You have an upcoming show on August 7 in the Palais Theatre in Melbourne called Jersey Forever. Can you encourage our listeners to watch it? Listeners from Australia to watch it. I will put the ticket. the link to buy the ticket on my the description. Can you
Thank you so much. Yes. So Jersey Forever is playing at the Palais Theatre on August 7th here in Melbourne, and it features and reunites the original four stars of Jersey Boys here in Australia: myself, Glaston Toft, Scott Johnson, and Stephen May. And we will be performing the greatest hits of Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons in a special event, one night only concert.
yes. Where they can buy the tickets? So
They can buy the tickets on jerseyforever.com.au or at Ticketmaster or at the Palais.
yes. Thank you, Bobby. Uh, for
Thank you,
guesting to
mate.
my podcast. Yes, and say
Great.
goodbye. And I will still continue to talk about this even without you. And
Brilliant.
then goodbye. Yes,
Good man.
bye.
Congrats, mate. Thank you.
Bye. Nice to talk with you. In the finale, crew introduced a reunited per season at the Rock and Hall of Fame induction in the 1990 in the Ragdoll song in the song at the reunion. Tommy mentioned his new life after settling in Las Vegas and invites Frankie, who looks forward to a second chance at fatherhood with three young sons, to a party in Nick's suits, which Frankie ultimately cannot bring himself to join. Each band member closes with a monologue explaining their lives at the time Jersey Boys was written. Tommy works for Joe Pesci and was welcomed back to Billy Bill as its man of the year for 2002. Bob was married and returned to Nashville, Tennessee, while staying in touch with Frankie regarding the band's business affairs. Nick stayed in New Jersey with his children, occasionally sitting in with Frankie when the band played there until he died on Christmas Eve in 2000. And Frankie continues the tour reflecting the band's street corner days were his favorites, and that he continues chasing the music, trying to get home in the scenes Who Love You, which is one of the last scene in the musical. Also, uh, uh, at the last part of our discussion about this musical, we will talk about the award. Jersey Boys get many awards and won the Tony Award in 2006 as one of the best musical, and 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 one of the person who played there as Frankie Valli, John Lloyd Young, also won as the best actor in musical, and one of the and also one of the lightning design also won in the Tony Award in 2006. Also, it also one of their actor who play as Frankie Valli in the Broadway production, John Lloyd Young, also won the Outstanding Actor in a Musical in the Drama Desk, and also won in Grammy Awards for the Best Musical Show Album in 2007. This musical get many award, and in the West End production also won the Lawrence Oliver Award in 2009 as one of the best new musical. And that's my short deep dive and analysis about Jersey Boys. And I want to thank Bobby for guesting to my podcast and talking about musical. He has no time because he is busy, so he left earlier. I want to thank him for guesting to my podcast and accepting my invitation, because he is a great person to talk about this musical, because he is one who originally play as Frankie Valli in the original Australian production of the Jersey Boys in 2009. It is nice to talk to him, and that's it. So we have no time, and this is the Dan Cash Gomez Show, and this episode is now signing off. Thanks for listening, everyone, and don't forget to buy the tickets. Also, the Jersey Boys, the Jersey Forever that will show in Palais Theatre in Melbourne, Australia. If you live in Melbourne, I encourage you and invite you to buy the tickets in the Jersey Forever website. I will send the link on the description of my podcast so you can easily buy the tickets if you want to see it if you are from Melbourne, Australia, or other parts of Australia who wants to visit Melbourne. And that's it. So this is the Dan Class Gomez Show, and I'm saying goodbye, and this podcast is now signing off. Thank you for listening.